it is a big deal who wins. And it gets posted online, and you get your picture taken, and you get one of the auto penguins. The other thing they do, which is cool, is that they have different criteria for winning, which means that you know what to design if you want to win. And this has created a focus on specific things in their scenarios. First of all, it means that all the big name designers in Denmark are going for scenario design. Not so much for game design, but for making scenarios that work. But of course they are designers and they want to do everything, so they put game systems into their games. They have a lot of excellent one-shot games. Monsegur 1244 is a Danish indie game which is really, really good. That's also from Fastadal. You can find a lot of these games online as well. They're good at taking care of their scenarios. They have 2 different sites for Danish scenarios. No, 3 different sites. One is called Alexandria, which is just all the Danish scenarios from all the cons ever. Then you have one called the Roleplaying project, you know, like it's called Cthulhu, which is the 100 best scenarios in Denmark. And then you have the, for some stupid reason they call it Gnavpotvekslet, but it is, it's supposed to be an outreach site because they translated Danish scenarios into English. So why they give it an obscure Danish name, I don't know. But there you can download the English versions of a lot of these things. So, and the Danes are very artsy. They're very, you know, focused on the cultural aspect, on making their scenarios sophisticated and mature and all that. Sometimes they go a bit too far, you know, it's like they have this, every year there seems to be some fashion trend running, and one year it's like child abuse or whatever. So they get a bit too, you know, oh, let's make this serious because they'll win something by being serious. I don't think a game has to be serious to be good at all. I think sometimes I think it's just emotional porn and you should just do something else, but it works for some time. I didn't mean to be so dismissive of the Danes, they're really great. The Swedes, they have their freeform thing, which they've been doing forever. Now, if you say freeform to an American indie designer, they will hate you, because freeform in the States seems to mean, at least to indie designers, it means Game Master designs everything and you just sit there. Now that's not what Swedish freeform means. Swedish freeform is about having open-ended scenarios and having no rules mechanisms there. Sometimes it's Game Master controlled, sometimes not. And it can also mean semi-noir. Freeform is basically whatever you want it to mean. And they have they publish stuff. They have this book called From Atlantis to Blekinge, 3 travels in freeform roleplaying, which are 3 very different scenarios. One about time travel, one about going back to the place where your friend killed himself 10 years after or something. So they also like this heavy shit. And from the freeform movement, you have something called G-form. Has anyone heard of G-form?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. The G-formers, basically, they're very good at branding themselves. Because they take freeform, they add a bunch of techniques and do it very well. They make really good things, and then they call it G-form. All the things they do are, you know, more or less freeformish, but they put it together in a good package. And they think about it, and they experiment with it, and they try new stuff. So it is starting to get removed from the standard freeform movements, because in G-form, you're allowed to be a strong and bad game master. You're allowed to control your characters, but only to make the experience like better for them. So you have like they have techniques like the bird in ear, where while you're playing, you're freeforming, so you're walking around the floor, and suddenly the game master comes up with whispers, you know, you want to kill her, or this is the worst thing you've ever seen, or suddenly you feel something inside you, whatever. And they kind of push you to play harder and to play better. And they're all about a strong experience. In G-form, they've been experimenting with bleed a lot, which is, you know, when basically when the border between player and character starts to dissipate, when the emotions bleed over. They have this game. You can see a lecture online, which is about Fat Man Down, which is one of the more extreme games. Fat Man Down is about one guy who's really fat and all the other people around him. It's about how society basically discriminates against fat people. And the fat player has to be fat. You have to have an obese or really chubby player to be the fat guy. And during the game, he will, you know, have different scenes going on, some more daily and nice, but then At some point in the game, all the other players get up and they walk up to the fat player and they start shouting, fat, 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 in unison like this for a few minutes. And then later, the final scene of the game is the fat guy's funeral. And the fat player lies on the floor and closes his eyes and waits for the scene to be set. But what he doesn't know is that everyone walks out of the room. There's nobody there. So he lies there until he opens his eyes, and then the game is over. So it's a pretty horrible game. You have to know what you're getting in for. It has to be said that the original Fat Man is the G4 boss, Tobias Rigstad, who is a chubby guy. And he was the first one to play it. It's interesting because the fat player can stop the scene whenever he wants, but nobody else can. So what he did, he took it over. He refused to end the scenes. So his friends who were playing with him and telling him how fat he was, they were not allowed to stop. You know, he kept pushing, 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 which made the game pretty bad for them as well, you can imagine. So they do these weird social experiments. You can read a lot about it online. They've had con games where they put people, they say, this game is called Waiting for, I don't know, Jukka or something. And they say, okay, just start here, we're waiting for Jukka, and he'll be coming with the booze. And then the game as it goes away and never comes back. And then they see what the players do for the next 3 or 4 or 5 hours, which is wait for Jukka. So yeah, if you're invited to a G-Phone game, I'll say yes and be prepared.
I heard about one they did in the Roleplaying. Apparently they were playing different parts of the human body, so one was head and one was the right arm and one was left arm and everything like that, and apparently the body got into a situation and then all the body parts wanted to do different things. Yeah. They actually had to play like, you know, the right arm was on the right side and somewhere it was the torso, and the head had to be on top of the torso.
That's fun, yeah, that's because they've had this development. Now they're trying to make more happy games, and I think that might be a reaction to well, I'm just going to say the title of the game, Gang Rape, which they made, and that's been very controversial for obvious reasons. You can find references and discussions online. I'm not sure what I think of it myself. I've been discussing it with designers and with women who refuse to play it. It's fun discussion, at least. I don't think I will play it. Alright, well, away from the game, right? Into the Norwegian game. We are very independent, which means we make our own games and do whatever we want and all that stuff. These are the guys who made Tracon V, which is a Norwegian story-listed role-playing game. They had a very good, you know, the guy on the left, he's a journalist, so he knows how to get into papers. They got the trailer for this role-playing game on the front page of the biggest Norwegian online newspaper, so you could, on the front page, you can click and see the trailer for the role-playing games. Managed to make like discussions with the culture department to get that in paper. So, but the thing is, we are independent in that we do what we want, but at the same time we're often very dependent on the state, because Norway has, you know, great welfare systems and we get money thrown after us because we have lots of oil. So if you do cultural projects, it's pretty easy to get funding. If, of course, what you do is deemed cultural. You know. So the first game I made, or big game I made, Tracon, got funding for publication. If we hadn't gotten funding from the Department of Culture, it would not be published. The later scenario, Beisten Borgerskap, got funding, and the money I received for this was less than the publishers got as funding. And these guys as well, it was big got funding. So the question is, what happens to an indie culture that's state-sponsored? Because we make these surrealistic and literary and highly valued games. But if I was to send the culture department a game about slaying monsters with really cool, new groundbreaking mechanics, I don't think they'd publish it. If I sent them zombie porn, I don't think they would touch it, you know. But if I sent them a nice game about folklore and lots of historical references, yes, that's good. So instead of having, you know, a big commercial publisher who says we only want, I don't know, games about vampires or whatever, we have the state who says we want, you know, worthy games. But that also means you can do controversial stuff as long as it's culturally, you know, good. I had a project called We All Have Names, which is a role-playing game about the Holocaust, and that also got I got an art scholarship for that for 2 years. I finished after 1 year because it was a bit hard. But I finished one game and I decided not to write the other one. You can hear more about it later in my guest bonus section. Alright, this guy, Thomas Merkel. He's a guy I really have a lot of respect for. He was the first guy in Norway to actually make his own games, I think. At least, his own games instead of just references to other games. One of the first games he made, which was like in '87 or something, I think, is called Moon. And it's about little, almost like the Moomy Troll. They're like little empathic creatures. They all feel the same way, more or less. And they are very afraid of crows because crows can peck them, and they're very fond of strawberries. And all they do is just walk around and try to feel good. Because if one of them feels bad, that mechanically affects all the others, so they start feeling bad as well. So if a moo on the other side of the map, you play on the map, if a moo on the other side of the map is feeling bad, you run over to him, and everyone wants to hug him, and you roll dice to see how well you can hug him if he gets happier. And this game was so weird when it came out that he didn't publish it properly. He just you could pay him to go to a seminar to learn it directly from him because he didn't trust people to understand it back then. Today that would probably be different because people are more used to these weird games, but back then nobody really understood it. I think he has 27 certified Moo Masters on one of them. He's still doing, well, right now he's not doing experimental stuff. Right now he's working on this traditional fantasy epic. So, Norwegian style. A few years back, we were talking about how many cool games were being made in Norway, because we've had this competition, this yearly competition, game design competition, which attracts probably 10 to 20 people every year, and then people make games and try to win. And for this competition, there's been a lot of short-form games made, because you have to write a game in 1 week. And this is a very good example of how